Back to another Recreate This look. This week we're doing the one, the only Tina Turner in the What's Love Got to Do With It video. I love Tina Turner, and the timing of this is no coincidence. The HBO documentary is out now called Tina, which she and her husband and her team produced. The best documentary about Tina Turner that you will find, in my opinion. This is the best one because she is telling her own story. Have foundation and concealer and all that jazz on to get this party started. Put on eyeshadow primer from Pretty Vulgar, which is a staple, something that I use in every video. And for the eye look today, I am using this NYX Ultimate Edit. This one is the Ash shadow palette. If you have not watched it yet, do yourself a favor, get the HBO Max, and literally it's worth it. Actually, HBO has been coming out with some really, really good musical artist documentary type films lately. Though we think we know Tina Turner's story from music and from the movie starring Angela Bassett and Lawrence Fishburne, like you think you know her story already. She put out the movie, she put out her book in the 80s. She put all those things out so that she wouldn't have to keep talking about certain things that happened in her life. We have the luxury with this documentary to hear and see Tina Turner talking about her own life herself in a way that I had never actually seen before. There's also archival footage and recordings of her giving interviews, her traumatic, abusive experiences with Ike in People magazine in 1981 when no one knew. It was a heavily guarded secret that he was abusive towards her. I always thought that everyone knew. She was very much alone in a lot of those moments where she was stuck in the situation with Ike, basically made a promise to him in the beginning of their partnership that she would never leave him. And like she says, in those days, a promise was a promise, and she felt like she had to stay. She describes it as living in shame. You know, you just kind of live in that shame and you find a way to just survive every day. And you'll be surprised how long you can live there. But when she finally did decide to leave him, that scene in the movie where she runs across the freeway to the Ramada Inn, all know that scene from the movie. And Angela Bassett in this movie, if you've never seen What's Love Got to Do With It, you have to. Just side note. No, she really did. She almost got run over by a truck on the freeway, and the manager of the hotel gave her a room to stay that night. A friend got a ticket for her to come back to Los Angeles. That's how she ran away from Ike. Also is true in the movie is that she started to study Buddhism as a way to escape, really. She leaves Ike, they get divorced. In the divorce, all she really walks away with, like the movie portrays, is her name. The judge allows her to go ahead and use that name and continue to perform under that name. However, the kind of terrible part about it is all of the music and all of the things that Ike and Tina did together, the judge granted to Ike. She had to re-record all of those songs. She couldn't use the original Ike and Tina recordings for the movie. So if you listen to the songs on the soundtrack for the movie, they were recorded specifically for the movie. And that's why they're not using original recordings for that movie soundtrack. She walks away with her name. She gets to kind of decide like, yes, I want to keep performing as Tina Turner. Now I have the ability to do so. And I want to get my career back on track. She's performing in Vegas. She's performing in San Francisco. And that's when she meets Roger Davies, which asked her what she wanted. And she said, I want to be the first Black rock and roll artist that sells out arenas like the Rolling Stones. The problem is is that most record labels, most record executives wanted nothing to do with Tina while she's trying to make it on her own. Again, after the whole Ike situation, in her mind, I'm away from him. I'm done with him. But every single gig she gets on TV, one of her managers was like, okay, let's get you on TV, because that's all that was paying her at the time. So she would do, variety shows on TV. Hollywood Squares. She was on Hollywood Squares. Constantly bring up Ike. Ike. First question. Oh, are you and Ike separated or divorced? Oh, where's Ike? First of all, how frustrating to have just left your abuser, right? You just left him. I don't care if it was a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, doesn't matter. You literally just left him, and the only thing anybody can ask you about is your abuser. Like, she would always make a little joke. Tina Turner is funny. Tina Turner has a wonderful sense of humor, and she is very charming. I'm gonna jump around here, so forgive me, but there's a point in time when Ike and Tina are still together, right? And they're on the Tonight Show. Johnny Carson asks her, what is it like when you guys are at home, or something to that effect. You're watching her survive right next to her abuser. You're watching her come up with the right thing to say, the right way to say it. He's sitting right next to her. Because you never know, if she says something wrong or says something that, he doesn't like, she's gonna have to deal with that later. Not Johnny. Johnny Carson's not gonna have to deal with it later. Tina is. So you're watching her choose her words very wisely. You're watching her, calculate the risk of what she's about to say it in such a way that the audience is laughing, Johnny Carson's laughing, everyone's laughing because she's saying it in such a charming manner. Now, she applies that same logic, she applies that same talent into every single situation where somebody insists on asking her about Ike after she's no longer with him. But I digress. So Roger Davies, her manager, actually wants her to meet with a songwriter named Terry Britton, and he is the person that wrote What's Love Got to Do with It. He wrote that song. But Roger Davies heard it and thought that she could do something with it. They work on the song, she makes it her own, and it becomes a hit. Like, a hit. And Private Dancer, which is her first solo debut album by herself, no Ike, just Tina, ends up becoming a worldwide sensation. She ends up winning Grammys and American Music Awards and all the awards, basically. And it is a pivotal moment in her career. The dream that she had of selling out arenas, the Private Dancer album allowed her to do that. She talks about her mother and father having an abusive relationship, and then her mother actually leaving the house, for just leaving them, and then the father leaving the house and leaving them, meaning her and her siblings. And they had to be taken care of by a cousin, fend for themselves and become independent. And she basically says, I was fine with my mother leaving my father because I could see the abuse. So I didn't mind my mother leaving my father. It was that she left and never came back for us. And those issues between her and her mother continued into adulthood. Tina Turner legit came from an abusive situation and found herself in an abusive situation practically her whole life. And in the beginning of the documentary, it's very interesting because she says, I had a sad life, I had an abusive life, and that's just what it is. And towards the end of the documentary, she basically says that, at this point in her life, now at 80 years old, she has accepted what her life was. At a certain point, she says, forgiveness takes over. You can't watch Tina Turner on stage and not be mesmerized. You can't watch Tina Turner sing live and not feel what's happening. And on a personal note, I actually was lucky and fortunate enough to be able to see Tina Turner in concert. My mom and I went to a concert. I must have been, God, like 16 or 17 years old, something like that. And we went to San Jose with some friends of my mom's, and it was the 24/7 tour. And I could not believe that I was singing Tina Turner songs and dancing around to Tina Turner songs since I was a toddler. Like, it was an experience that I'm so grateful for. So thank you, Mom. Like, seriously, thank you. They're calling this documentary, they're basically calling this her farewell. Not in the sense that she's somehow not going to be with us for much longer. I didn't get that impression. Like her husband said in the documentary, this is closure. This is her closure for all of her fans. It makes perfect sense. So in 2019, the Broadway musical About Her Life came out, and I want to see it so bad. I wanted to see it when it came out, but obviously didn't have a chance. And whenever I have a chance, I'm gonna go see it. This documentary kind of coincided at the end with the opening night of her Broadway musical. And so I think it was like a gift to her fans. Like, you have it all now, and I'm gonna bow out gracefully, basically. And I think that that's smart. I think that the fact that she has, after everything, after all of the heartache and after all of the self-doubt and the, coming through the other side with her dignity intact, after all of the things that she's overcome, to find someone who loves her the way that Irvin, her husband, loves her. They've been together, for probably over 30 years now, and they're happy. And that's the impression that I get at the end of this documentary. She can ride off into the sunset with her husband and go live the rest of her life and know that at the end of the day, she overcame everything that came her way. I cried both times that I watched this documentary. I cried both times. And I think it's because it's just, I have such a respect for her and such an admiration for her and her talent, and just, it's undeniable. The red lip. I use this lip liner from Beauty Vault. It's called Natty Nat, but it's a very red. It looks red to me. KVD liquid lipstick in the shade Outlaw. Oh, nice. Okay, that works. If you want to put your favorite Tina Turner song in the comments, that would be fun. We can talk about Tina Turner songs. Would love to do that. For the hair, I will be using a very tiny crimper. I don't have the right hair color for this, but I'm just gonna go for it. It's a look, it's a style, so I'm not worried about the hair color not being 100% right, but I'm just more going for the aesthetic, right? So I'm pretty much done with the hair. It's not perfect. I'm gonna go put on the outfit and I'll be right back. The final look. I'm really happy with it. I think it came out pretty good. I'm actually really happy with it. I had a lot of fun talking about the documentary and a lot of fun talking about Tina Turner. And I really love that we got this documentary while she was still with us, while she's still alive, while she's still able to tell her story herself. And I know that her story has already helped a lot of people and will continue to help a lot of people. So if you watch the documentary, please leave me a comment and let me know what you thought of it. I really do appreciate you watching, and I'll be back next week for another Recreate This Look. Thanks again.